Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. This event will be presented in both English and Portuguese, and I want to thank our interpreter, Patricia Sequeira Braz, for her help with that tonight.
Bem-vindos, muito obrigada pela vossa presença aqui hoje conosco. Este evento vai ser apresentado em inglês e português e agradeço à nossa intérprete, Patrícia Sequeira Braz, pela sua ajuda já à noite.
I'm Sarah Chapman, and I'm the executive director of the nonprofit Media Burn Archive, which is based in Chicago. Media Burn collects, preserves, and distributes documentary video produced by artists, activists, and community groups. Our mission is to use archival media to deepen context and encourage critical thought through a social justice lens.
Sou a Sarah Chapman, sou diretora executiva da ONG Media Burn Archive, sediada em Chicago. A Media Burn coleciona, preserva e distribui videodocumentários produzidos por artistas, ativistas e grupos comunitários. A nossa missão é usar arquivo mídia para aprofundar o contexto e encorajar o pensamento crítico através de uma lente de justiça social.
This event is part of an ongoing free series called Virtual Talks with Video Activists. If you enjoy this event, please make sure to join us for our future events with video artist Salome Chasnoff on the 29th, Philippine activist group Engage Media on November 12th, and the Southside Home Movie Project featuring filmmaker Ashley O'Shea on December 3rd.
Este evento faz parte de uma contínua série livre chamada Virtual Talks with Video Activists, conversas virtuais com ativistas de vídeo. Se gostarem deste evento, assistam aos nossos eventos futuros com a artista de vídeo Salomé Chasnoff, no dia 29, o grupo filipino ativista Engage Media, dia 12 de novembro, e o projeto Southside Home Movie, com a diretora Ashley O'Shea, no dia 3 de dezembro.
Today, we're pleased to present a screening and discussion with Vito Ribeiro and Clara Medeiros of the Brazilian group Bombozila.
Hoje temos o prazer de apresentar um visionamento e discussão com Vito Ribeiro e Clara Medeiros, do coletivo brasileiro Bombozila.
Bombozila is an independent platform for access to documentaries that portray social struggles and popular resistance to the advance of capitalism, extractivism, agribusiness, and militarization in their communities.
Bombozila é uma plataforma independente de acesso a documentários que retratam as lutas sociais e a resistência popular ao avanço do capitalismo, extrativismo, agronegócio e a militarização nas suas comunidades.
It sprung out of an independent media meeting in Rio in 2016 to report the social impacts of the Olympic Games in the city. It was at this meeting that the demand for a platform which amplified the reach of independent audiovisual productions in Latin America and the Caribbean was identified.
Nasceu do encontro entre a mídia independente no Rio em 2016 com o propósito de denunciar o impacto social dos Jogos Olímpicos na cidade. Foi nesse encontro que se identificou a necessidade de uma plataforma que amplificasse o alcance de produções audiovisuais independentes da América Latina e do Caribe.
The word Bombozila comes from African religions. They are entities that make the connection between the spirit world and the material world.
A palavra Bombozila tem origem nas religiões africanas. São entidades que fazem a ligação entre o mundo espiritual e o mundo material.
Please feel free to enter questions into the chat during the presentation. Actually, I think it's going to be a little informal, so definitely feel free to interrupt. Once we open up to Q&A, you're welcome to ask questions either in the chat or by unmuting yourself and asking out loud. This is a small group and we want it to be interactive.
Este grupo é bastante pequeno, portanto o formato vai ser informal. Por favor, coloquem as vossas questões talvez no chat, quando abrimos o Q&A, mas também podem colocá-las ao vivo após terem desligado a função mute no Zoom.
So with that, let's start the presentation. Levi, if you could take that away for us. And I'd like to, I think I said I introduced Vito Ribeiro and Clara Medeiros from Bombozila. And I think Vito is going to start us off.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for having us. We are very happy to present our project and what Bombozila means for our video activist community here in Latin America. So we can just go to the first video and then we go back to the presentation. Yeah, so as we show in the video, Bombozila is an independent effort to catalog, preserve, and amplify the outreach of independent documentaries, and mostly from Latin America and Caribbean, but we have also some documentaries from South Africa, from US. And here on this slide, we can see our crew, our brave staff, which is totally volunteer. Bombozila is not a formal organization, it's a kind of collective, an informal organization, formal group. And today we have me and Clara to this presentation. So I would like just to share some face, because it's a very collective and collaborative effort, and it's important to share our people. Yeah, we can go to the next, please. So yeah, just sharing a notion about Bombozila as a video on demand platform. On our platform, you find around 500 documentaries, all related to social justice, to community struggles, to resistance in Latin America and Caribbean, as I said. And you can go through the content on different paths. You can do, for example, you can filter the content by language. So we have Spanish and English and Portuguese content, and you can just filter anything by language and find content with English subtitles or English sound, and the same with Portuguese and Spanish. We also have some marathons, which is thematic curation we used to do on some specific moments. All the content is organized through categories. So you can see, for example, I highlighted 2 categories, the land defense and the Black Lives Matter ones, which means we are all the time identifying documentaries, receiving documentaries, and put them under the names and the expressions, the social movements raised on their demonstrations, on their struggles. So it's not a kind of curation for a festival which have some specific names or expression. We use exactly what social movements use to easily identify the content, and of course make the content useful for them. We also have a session to submit a doc. As I said, Bombozila is a collaborative platform, so people are all the time sending their productions, submitting their documentaries, and we are, as possible, cataloging and doing social impact campaigns to engage audience on social media and our channels through those documentaries. And you also can have your login, which gives you some good features like create your own playlist or even watch later setups, and you can just see the contents you gonna watch later. And yeah, and you can use Bombozila through all devices like TV, smart TVs, computers, cell phones, iPads, any kind of device you can just access. It's totally free and totally collaborative. We can go to the next one, please, Levi. Yeah, most then the platform Bombozilla is an effort of some people that have been participating on different networks of video activists and human rights defenders, which make us able to interact with different instances and projects and communities and organizations. So we can see on this slide our ecosystem, which means the VOD, the video on demand platform, is part of our training sessions, is part of our public screenings when we are able to go out, of course, and screen to the people, is also part of our social impact campaign, because most of just catalog a documentary, we organized the whole campaign on social media. We also engage press, we engage journalists to promote and even to bring back some documentaries that it was like released 5 or 10 years ago. And when you put into a curation, into a marathon, or into some thematic screening, you make this documentary relevant again, and then can engage people again around those issues and make that create some sense when you watch documentaries engaged as a curation, as a playlist. We can go ahead, please.
I just have a quick question. So if you're putting all of this work into each of the videos on your platform with the cataloging and the social media campaigns, does that mean, are you accepting work from anyone, or do you sort of curate and accept work that, you know, is meaningful to you and that you think is good?
Yeah, good question. Actually, we have been pretty much easy to deal with that, because people have been identifying Bombozila as something related to our video activist community. So we just received like documentaries from independent production, mostly of all, from social struggles, from people resistant. So that's pretty easy, because people are really collaborating with us. There's no hoax or hate content being submitted to the platform. But yeah, we do a kind of curation. Like, we try not to be too technical and too with a lot of criteria, but understand that some videos are urgent to be shared, because it's the only, for example, can be the only memory for some specific event on an indigenous community, for example, into Amazon. And we are all the time understanding that we receive like very well produced documentaries by good collectives that have been working that professionally. But we also catalog very spontaneously and very in frontline productions that people are doing just to share their stories and their realities. So just looking a little bit to our timeline to understand when Bombozila started. As Sarah introduced it, Bombozila came from a gathering we organized during the Olympic Games in Rio. You can imagine the whole structure of human rights violations that an event like Olympic Games brings to a city. And in Rio de Janeiro, it was like that, a lot of violence, forced eviction, a lot of criminalization of activists. And then we organized this convening. It was like 2 weeks working together with 30 independent communicators from Latin America to cover those impacts, to go out and film and document abuse and listen people and spread those voices. And of course, as we gathered a lot of people with good capacities on community media, independent journalism, it was also a good opportunity to create this space to learn and share, to folks share with local people, with local activists here, capacities and skills on doing independent media. So I will go through very fast on this timeline, because it's important to say that since the very beginning, since the 2016, we have been experimenting and trying a lot of collective initiatives, like doing trainings, like organizing public screenings, and creating tools to this video activist community, doing a lot of consultation with them to fully understand what kind of tools, what kind of platforms could be useful to amplify their capacity of production, to amplify the capacity to distribute documentaries that maybe can be just on YouTube, on Vimeo, and people just don't know. People can go there and don't know what to search. So we get all those files that are pretty much lost on YouTubes and Vimeos and put together into relevant curation and thematic categories. So you can see 2020, we are just right now preparing a digital learning platform to keep doing our audiovisual trainings to our public, to our community on social distance situation, of course. And we also have this crowdfunding platform, which is our initiative to support independent documentaries, to fundraise, to get some support, to keep filming, to keep sharing their productions. The next one, please, and I think it's my last one. Oh yeah, this session is very interesting to share, because it's pretty much about how solidarity plays into this video activist community. So you can see into Chile, Felipe Duran, who is a photographer that documents the abuse against indigenous community Mapuche in Chile. And you can see us doing trainings then with communities there. When we came back, they gave us this flag, this Mapuche flag. And we organized a lot of videos, a lot of video letters to send back to them to create this connection. Next one, please. The same with Ayotzinapa. When we went to Ayotzinapa to participate on Solidarity's campaigns with the 43 students that disappeared by state in Mexico, we just came back with names, with pictures, with face, and put our community to declare solidarity to them, to send them video letters declaring our concern to the situation. And the last one in this session about solidarity, please. Yeah, and this one is when we went to US to participate with cop watchers that document police abuse in New York and Ferguson. We just came back with a lot of footage that we filmed, but also archived from them. They just gave us some archive of cop watching, filming police frisking people, Latin people, Black people, and we edited a documentary to share with folks in Brazil this movement and inspire people here to be in touch with them, because we have a lot of cop watchers here documenting police abuse in favelas in Rio, for example. So it was pretty much initiative to use the video, and is how it works. Use the video not only as a piece or as a memory, but as a bridge to strengthen the solidarity, to make people understand each other's and embrace each other's struggles. I think we have 2 trailers just to see that happens. Yeah, let's watch this. I would just introduce this trailer. Is about a video evidence documentary. We are filming, still filming. It's about people in Rio de Janeiro using cameras and cell phones to document extrajudicial killings, police brutality, and using that to make pressure on judicial strategies.
Enquanto o governo do Rio de Janeiro moderniza suas estruturas de controle e vigilância, o povo responde com câmeras nas ruas.
Em 2013, as pessoas descobrem que elas podem usar a câmera para filmar e documentar a violência policial nos protestos.
Cara, tô brindadão na boca da grade.
Não quero filmar ninguém, não tô indo.
Tá tranquilo, tá tranquilo.
Vai, todo mundo beca aí, sai, porra!
Porque é complicado você chegar, apontar uma câmera para uma mãe que está chorando e aquela mãe olha para você e ela te reconhece como morador, como amigo do filho dela e você simplesmente não pode fazer nada, é só simplesmente registrar para que aquilo vá para a rede, para pelo menos minimamente tentar resolver alguma coisa ou dar voz à favela.
Nós temos um caso bastante emblemático, o caso de Eduardo Felipe no Morro da Providência, no qual uma moradora filmou através do celular um menino após ter sido baleado pela polícia. Os policiais colocaram a arma na mão dele e efetuaram 2 disparos.
Ele tá botando ele. Não, eles estão dando tiro. Ele tá falando com o moleque ainda.
Sai da frente! Sai da frente, caralho!
A popularização dos equipamentos de filmagem, a coragem da multidão em produzir as provas e o trabalho dos defensores de direitos humanos tem permitido desmentir versões mentirosas por parte do Estado.
Cadê a grande mídia? Cadê a grande mídia? Que só sabe, meter o pau, favelado é tudo conivente, favelado aceita o tráfico, favelado é filho da puta, tem que morrer porque é preto. Nós não tem que morrer não, nós tem que lutar.
Yeah, Levi, and we can just play the next one, please, and I can explain a little bit the sense of this video bridge to strengthen the solidarity we used to produce. So this one is a very interesting example. When I went to New York City and start to collaborate with cop watchers from there, this group, El Grito de Sunset Park, which is a Boricua group, basically Puerto Rican people that organizing themselves to make their parades, their proud events, and also to protect the neighborhood from police abuse using cameras. So then just gave me that whole archive and said me, we need to make that reach people in Brazil, on other countries, and gave me the whole material to edit something and release on Bombozila and make this circuit happen. So that's a very concrete example on how we have been using video, not only filming by ourselves, but receiving pieces, receiving a lot of collaboration, different collaboration that conforms at the final a documentary that is not ours, but it's a message that our community needs to spread, needs to speak out. So yeah, thank you. I think that's my part, trying to introduce Bombozila and trying to make folks understand that this platform, it's actually an initiative, an online instance to materialize this whole interaction, this whole network that we have been working together, and then that we have been collaborating on a very difficult situation, as we saw on videos, but of course part of something bigger, which is this resistance, this video activist community.
I'm wondering if you have any thoughts, having worked with cop watchers in so many different countries and cities, if you have any feelings about either the differences between different countries and cities, or are we all facing the same thing? Or are there unique situations, in Chile versus in Brazil, or is it all very much a unified struggle?
I think structurally is pretty much the same, like a state violence sponsored by the state with police abuse. The state can say that is some isolated event, something that is not structural, but we know that is structural. But it's very different because, for example, in Rio, teenagers are using cell phones to film extrajudicial killings, like these massive killings that police in Rio used to do in favelas with armored tank, with armored helicopters just shooting from above. So that's crazy because you cannot be safe just having footage of that on your cell phone, and police can frisk you on some alley or at the street and can obligate you to unblock your cell phone and show your footage. Police in Rio, in favelas, do that, unfortunately, all the time. They pressure kids and teenagers to just unblock cell phones and check your footage, check your message. They can also, they cannot, it's illegal, but that's the situation we have in Rio. For example, in New York City, that's impossible to imagine. New York Police Department just shooting people with these kind of calibers and helicopters and tanks, but you can also see something like Eric Garner being choked by a cop at the street just by selling cigarettes at the street. So that's crazy also, but it's a little bit different. So yeah, we have something to understand that is part of the same, like people embracing the cause, like common people having the initiative to grab the phone and start to film, people that has the courage to do. And we have, for example, people like us that we are doing exchanging, learning, sharing experience in understanding how to do and sharing contents and sharing materials to support people to do that better. So I think that's yeah, I think it's pretty much the same structural violence and racism against poor and black people and most black kids, but there is some difference.
In the chat, Ariel Dougherty mentioned that she has other examples of activists using media to deal with cops. I don't know if you do want to sort of speak up about that. I mean, I feel like the group probably is pretty interested as a whole in this topic.
Well, yeah, hi. There's film, still photographs that I remember. Pacific Film Collective is there filming some demonstration in New York City, and the cops are also filming. I mean, it's the dynamic. And then I just recently saw some footage right after the Kent State issue and a big demonstration at American University. And all this footage is being shot by radicals, but then there's the cops. They're also filming. It was real. The cop footage, I mean, images of the cops filming was really striking to me at that point. So I think there's a long history of this dynamic is, I guess, what I'm trying to help us see.
Yeah, that's really important to note that we are all using these tools, but the cops are using them as well. And it's ominous, you know, when the cops start picking up cameras. Well, do we want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, please. Yeah, so just really finishing my part and passing to Clara, my partner here, just to look to the map and see that we are trying really to create something to the community, create some useful tools, some useful space. So you can see a little bit places where we went and where we have volunteers and local curators sending all the time documentaries and maintaining us updated with things and engaging content. And right now we can see like Europe, Asia, and Middle East and Africa are on our route because activists from those territories started to reach us, started to ask us to do something together. So we are trying to understand how it's possible to do something together with different places than Latin America, which is our, as I put here, we are just on October, which means 1 year past Chile, Ecuador, and Colombia and other countries. It was on a huge uprising, a lot of police abuses at the streets, and just right now, movements and most indigenous movements are calling Rebel October, which means the need to people go out and keep demonstrating for their rights. So I just bring the Abya flag, which is the name of this continent, to indigenous community before Colón, of course. And this expression means tierra de sangre vital, which is the vital bloody land. So I think that's very key to understand how resistance on our continent can inspire other territories and other struggles. So I will just pass to Clara.
Hi, everyone. So as Victor so well presented, we are dedicated to cataloging independent documentaries online as a video on demand platform, but we're also committed to creating physical spaces of political construction to broaden the reach of social justice documentaries. That comes to life, for instance, in our festival Week for Audiovisual Sovereignty, which is a circuit of public screenings and post-screenings conversations around projects produced in the marginalized communities with decentralized projections to bring audiovisual closer to everyone and sort of retake the streets to public and admission-free cultural activities. We sort of engage in this week-long with activists from the continent. So the projections and the screenings and the conversations happen in cities throughout the continent, not only in Brazil.
Sorry, Clara. Levi, can we have the video?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The next slide. Yeah, so on the left side of the screen, we have the public screenings from the Week of Audiovisual Sovereignty. And as you can see, you know, we take back the squares, the stairs, stoops, anywhere we can project and get these films out. And these films also, the curation of the Week of Audiovisual Sovereignty is focused on the non-industrial side of filmmaking. So different voices can be heard without specific need for technical or industrial or cinematographical standards. The idea is, you know, having spaces for encounters, for production, reflection and discussion on the themes that concern and that are printed in the films that are being projected. And there are also workshops that take place during the circuit because we celebrate audiovisual as a weapon of struggle for free expression. And we could just, Levi, if we could just play the video, the first video on the left, just to give us kind of a visual idea of, this one is our demo video from 2017. It happened in 4 or 5 different states in Brazil, multiple screenings, multiple activities at different times, and curatorships at different times of the day to have the projections and to just, you know, as I said, take the streets and to the documentaries and the documentaries to the streets. And having also post-screening conversation with the producers, with the filmmakers, and the community where the screenings take place. And Levi, if you can go back to the previous slide. Speaking of the workshops, we can also go to the second video, Levi, which is the video from Tambor. Tambor is part of this ecosystem of sharing online, organizing public screenings and post-screening conversation. We organize in-person and online training. Tambor is a training initiative to facilitate storytelling with peripheral groups. Several workshops and lectures are held in this program, as well as practical activities to enable periphery communicators to use video and communication as tool to fight for rights. We strengthen audiovisual communities to do collabs. We provide access to equipment and funds, sharing these funds and facilitating transportation for the communicators, food for the day, and all that. We have also partnered with the Federal University in Rio de Janeiro, so the participants can get credit from this Federal University, and that is also kind of a way to democratize the academic access of these community members to this credit. This is all part of our initiative as a whole to strengthen these audiovisual communities. Levi, you can go back to our slide and take us to the next one, please. Where we can talk about more further about a specific case where we could work this straightening of audiovisual community. During the pandemic, we were actually, as Bombozila, pre-producing a documentary about the health public system in Brazil. That was something that we've been doing since last year, and we had already started filming. And when the pandemic outbroke, we decided to make it a series of documentaries and to share the front line of the health workers, because the project itself was being crowdfunded by health workers, public health workers from Brazil, right from the beginning when it was just one feature film documentary. We had the chance to also receive video activists collaborative footage. So we had voices from video activists from all over the country to sort of give a more broader points of view from the pandemic in the country itself, which is almost a continent. And most of these states and most of these activists don't usually get their words so spread it out if they're not in Rio de Janeiro or in Sao Paulo. So it was a chance to also connect with these activists and get their footage into the narrative. The series is called Pandemic and State of Exception. This was the first season. We did 6 episodes, and we're working on the second season, and we'll get to more to that later on. We created also a social impact conversation circuit involving universities, public health users, researchers, public health workers, and public health workers to discuss the series and the impact of the series and of the pandemic and everything on these groups. It was very interesting to have these all sorts of different conversations going on parallel. Since it was a circuit, we had like different groups in different platforms having this conversation. And as part of our campaign, audiovisual workers that weren't getting work done or getting freelance jobs in the beginning of the pandemic, we were able to share funds as sort of relief work, using their footage, and since it was crowdfunded, being able to fund them for their work. With the Pandemic and State of Exception project, we're also able to do a campaign where we shared audiovisual techniques to show the community that we could adapt to the social distancing and all the restrictions it brought to filmmakers and content producers, and keep producing and keep sharing these voices and keep, adapting. We share our online interviewing techniques on our social networks, for instance, with small tutorials on how to frame an online interview, and also how to teach your interviewee, which many times it's not someone from the audiovisual, it's someone that is in the pandemic, closed at home, and doesn't necessarily know framing and important stuff like that. So how can you explain that to someone who's not from the audiovisual in order to get, takes that cut together in the editing suite? So that was part of our campaign too. So next slide, please, Levi.
Sorry, Clara. Should us play the trailer a little bit just to make people...
Oh yeah, I think I forgot. Yeah, sure.
Over in China, the death toll from the virus rises while the disease continues to spread across the world.
The number of people who've died from coronavirus in Italy has now overtaken the figure.
España alcanza los 1.000 fallecidos por coronavirus.
This was the number today, 627 people dying in just the past 24 hours, the worst yet.
65 new cases of the coronavirus on a quarantine ship off the coast of Japan.
The novel coronavirus has killed more than 2,800 people worldwide.
Do we have a sense here of just how deadly this is?
It comes from China. That's why. It comes from China.
The rapid spread of this virus has hit many major industries as well, from tourism to auto manufacturing.
Dia de pânico no mercado de capitais.
Estão tendo dificuldades em manter o preço do petróleo.
Manifestações do presidente Jair Bolsonaro à ameaça do coronavírus têm sido alvo de uma série de críticas.
Médicos infectologistas, presidente, dizem que o governo, de alguma forma, demorou a reconhecer a gravidade da situação que estamos vivendo.
A tendência para os próximos dias é de hospitais cada vez mais cheios.
Em final de abril, nosso sistema entra em colapso.
O que o senhor tem a dizer sobre isso?
O coronavírus escancara tudo que a gente tem de difícil nesse momento.
O grande interesse contra a população de rua em São Paulo, e acredito em todo o Brasil, é o mercado imobiliário.
O desmonte do SUS, ele é um fato. Precisa nós ficarmos aqui falando sobre isso, né? A população, ela sabe.
A gente trabalha os 3 turnos, geralmente. Eu, por exemplo, começo a trabalhar às 10h30 da manhã, só vou para casa às 11 horas da noite.
Sempre tem uma droga que é associada a essa população, que é a justificativa para tomar medidas higienistas.
A cada dia mais eu fico triste, porque eu fico pensando em como que vai se dar a continuidade do nosso sistema de saúde daqui para frente.
É o Estado agindo criminosamente contra aqueles que legitimamente tentam defender o que é de todos.
O agrotóxico hoje está acabando com tudo, né? Está destruindo tudo. É só lavouras, não temos mata, né? Nosso ar poluído, é câncer de pele, né? E os brancos não estão vendo isso.
A mobilização que houve em 2019 das mulheres indígenas, ela tem essa perspectiva de se somar à luta de todos os movimentos de resistência à ofensiva de devastação que vem do outro lado.
Eu fiquei muito revoltada quando a gente chegou aqui, que fomos impedidos aqui de entrar no CESAI para defender os nossos direitos.
Sem pânico ou histeria, como venho falando desde o princípio. Venceremos o vírus e nos orgulharemos de estar vivendo nesse novo Brasil.
So moving forward, just like we try to inspire the audiovisual communities to keep producing during the pandemic, we also campaign to support festivals to keep going during the pandemic, offering our platform as platform for festivals, and our know-how to keep the independent documentary community in Latin America moving forward at this moment. This is such a freezing moment for us all. And that connects with the continent, and as Victor said, you know, Abiyala, you know, the understanding of the continent and the connection of these filmmakers to the continent. So as I said earlier, we're starting production of the second season of our series with collaboration with various independent communicators from the continent. Let me see. Yeah, Levi, you can get the next slide, please.
Yeah.
Coming from, yeah.
Sorry. I thought it was mine. It is still you. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, just to emphasize. Oh no, you're doing this work. You want to wrap it up? Just wrap it up.
Yeah, just to give to the people a short sense of what it was, these web series, and of course open to a conversation, because I know there's a lot of people with different experience here. It should be good to listen people. I know it was a lot. We prepared a huge presentation, but we are very proud to do this presentation with Media Burn, because it fits too much with our work, and we use this opportunity to share a very concrete sense of our ecosystem and our work. Right now, we are just crowdfunding again to our second season of this web series. And the idea right now is try to reach Latin America and show how communities, indigenous groups, and social movements and marginalized communities are fighting the pandemic and all the impact that the crisis and everything is bringing to the ground. So if you guys want to collaborate with us, we have this campaign just open. You can just visit apoie.bombozila.com, and you will find this poster there, and you can just do a very quick donation. Any amount will support a lot us, because as you can imagine, the exchange is insane. In Brazil, dollar is just going to the moon. So any dollar, any $5, $10 will help a lot our effort to keep creating independent and autonomy space to produce documentaries and share relevant stories. Thank you guys so much.
I'm amazed at what an all-volunteer organization has been able to do. You guys really astound me with this huge volume of stuff. But I'll read, there's a question from the audience. Christina Di Pasquale says, could Bombozila also please say more about the Week of Audiovisual Sovereignty?
Yeah, of course. That's a movement that started on 2013. When some independent, how do I say, small spaces of screening, we call that in Latin America, micro scene. It's like a micro room to screen. So those groups start to organize these circuits and working together with different countries and engaging people to organize public screenings during the same week to show our capacity, to show our muscle. And that start with 6 countries. And then right now, when we do convos to this event used to be like 13, 14 countries participating during the same week. The audiovisual sovereignty as a concept came from this network, and specifically from a group called Rede Chasqui, based in Peru, which is a very important group from the 80s. And the people that participate in the third scene movement, the new Latin cinema movement, and then those people just create this organization and start to work together with teenagers, communities, indigenous communities, to share their stories. And then they created this concept of audiovisual sovereignty, considering that, for example, indigenous communities all the time are receiving filmmakers from the outside to document their stories, and then just go out, do their films, and just get some grants and get some festivals, and then community just cannot access the movies because sometimes the movie is protected by copyright, because it's being screened on a broadcast TV or Netflix or something like that, and people cannot even watch the documentary they participated in. So when they created this initiative to decentralize it, the narrative, to decolonize it, the frame of the audiovisual, it was very impactful to the whole audiovisual community, because it was something very from the ground, and fighting for their protagonism on their own stories, and holding the camera and decide what to show, when to show, and how to frame the story. So that's the inspiration of this week of audiovisual sovereignty, and is a very important agenda for our movement.
Yeah, a couple comments that are related are that decentralized formats are essential to the Brazilian reality. And also, someone earlier commented that the catalog on the Bombozila platform has the decolonial visuality and narrative. They are ways of representing and denouncing a continent exploited for centuries.
Yeah, that's interesting how people are at some point identifying Bombozila as a repository to a lot of usage. For example, researchers from different universities from Europe, for example, Latin American groups that are dedicated to study, to research about Latin America, are using Bombozila as a complementary resource to their class, to their investigations. Also, students that are searching for some stories about the contest they are researching, or doing some class work, they are using that. And we are all the time participating with universities and teachers and students, inviting us to be part of conversations, because we really understand, and we really are really dedicated to use audiovisual as also as a learning tool, as a complementary learning tool to people. So it's interesting how some in the teachers or some social movement just go through our catalog, do their own curation, create their own playlist, and organize their screening internally to their audience, and promote post-screening conversations. So that's pretty much what we believe. Our intention on creating this platform is totally different than this individual experience of watching films on your VOD service, like your Netflix, your remote control, watching, eating your popcorn, and nothing after that. Our intention is to shift this perception to a crowd audience, to a collective screening, to people that can watch and do a discussion, when a documentary can be really powerful to accelerate some change, to accelerate some thoughts, and right now with this whole misinformation situation, a lot of deep fake videos, a lot of unverified content just going through social media all the time, and people embracing that, sharing that out. It's important to have relevant content, relevant audiovisual content that can make people think about, that can make people go through the content more than just 3 or 7 seconds, which is pretty much the amount of content social media is delivering to the people when you just swipe your finger on your phone. So our intention is to engage audience, to support them on this crowd experience of watching movies and having conversations.
There's a question about what percentage of your energy and time do you spend on in-person things versus online? How much of that does it sort of occupy you?
Sorry, I missed something.
The question was, I think, how much of your time and effort is spent organizing and producing these in-person events versus the online component? I mean, obviously it's different now, but before.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because right now we are just understanding that digital learnings and digital tools for what we usually do it's elemental right now, because not only because we are on social distance status, but these moments make people from other cities, from other places request us to do something. People that know that they will not be in person with us, maybe never, but they want to do something. They need Bombozila for some reason. So that's interesting to think about how we, with our experience on hosting videos online, on organizing training, how we can provide this experience and implement some tools. Because as we share here, we are working to this community, we are working to people use Bombozila, we are working to people crowdfunding on our platform. So I really understand right now we are working much more than before, and everything we are doing is like live presentations, live trainings, online meetings and convenings. But it's also interesting to understand that people are interested to know more about technology on our segment. People are doing a lot of upgrades, online tutorials and courses to understand how to screening videos online, how to create their own instance to share content. And I think that's a moment, it's a good moment to people understand how useful technology can be to the social movement, to human rights campaign, how we can be smart, how we can be more creative to engage people around our cause, because we know that's a lot of content going online, but our intention is to mobilize some attention, some audience to relevant content, which is always difficult, but yeah, I don't know if I responded, but.
No, that's a good answer. I'm just also personally sort of impressed at you being able to maintain that focus, because I know that MediaBurn also being an online platform, I feel like so many people just watch the videos on their own and we never know about it, like we don't hear about it. It isn't a kind of collective activity, and that you're able to sort of like emphasize the need for watching to be a collective activity is really interesting and important, because yeah, the impact is so different in the collective experience than just you looking at your phone by yourself. Didi
Yeah,
also has a question.
Yeah, sorry, there's a question. Go ahead, please.
Okay, I just wondered if there's activism around aspects of the internet, of the digital divide, the fact that many poor people don't have access, don't have fast lines, don't have the equipment, and is there a movement to try to make access to technology itself more egalitarian. There was, is anyone in your group involved with ICANN? Because I was very involved, and I'm still a member of the non-commercial users constituency. And Brazil was very active in that until the coup, and it doesn't seem like people from Brazil are very active anymore.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, because when we are delivering content online, we still have to think about people that have not good connection, good bandwidth, or good cell phones to access. Yeah, that's a challenge for us, because we are just updating our learnings right now to understand how to do, for example, like peer-to delivering, where people can use like torrent files to share the bandwidth among the users. That's a very interesting initiative to use less bandwidth of people watching movies, for example. In the past, we used to organize some curations into flash drives and just go to indigenous community and give them those flash drives with a lot of documentaries organized by folders with the whole synopsis and technical information, to make them able to elect the documentaries they would like to screen. So that's interesting, because most of all indigenous community in Brazil has a video beam to screen, to do projection, but there's no internet, there's no good internet to stream videos. So it was useful to share some flash drives. But it was interesting to think about that, because we have not rights of the documentaries we share on Bombozila. The rights is all related to the authors. So it's always challenge to engage authors and producers to deliver their content on this kind of independent and more alternative way. So we need to request authorization to the people to have content on a flash drive, because if someone just posts some video that are not online on YouTube, for example, if that happens, it will be our responsibility for that. So we have been trying. Someone said in the past that we could create a kind of valleys with video being, with sun energy, with a lot of independence to screen. We are trying to understand how to provide more access to the people. So for example, our trainings, our video trainings, we always extract the audio to share a podcast to some participants that are not using some good connection, so they can have the trainings just listening our voice and not saying the video. So we are all the time challenging with that, but yeah, it's always difficult to consider that there's some communities that are not connected, and we need to keep thinking about how to deliver content to them.
Thank you.
No, thank you for your question.
So there was a wonderful comment that maybe we can close out with. Tassira says that Brazil and Latin America have few media/audiovisual intersections. Bombozila is one of these places to understand our common histories. I thought that was a really nice thought. And I wanted to thank Vito and Clara for being here tonight. It was really wonderful to hear about what you're doing. And I hope that we can continue working with you in the future. And thank you so much to Patricia for sitting through this all the way from the UK, where it's late at night. Even though we didn't need your live services, I'm sure that people will want to watch this later on and have the Portuguese subtitles. And Patricia is like a very accomplished film scholar herself, so it was really cool to meet you and have you here. And I also wanted to thank Levi Henke, who, as always, does an amazing job with the technical stuff, and the video never stalls, and everything works well. So thank you all so much for joining us, and please visit this link to support the work of Bombozila if you can, and share with your friends. Thank you. Good night, everyone.